Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jennifer Ferrero, and my business is Ferrero Agency. It's a content marketing agency. And we've got Dean Cameron and Kelly Maloney and John Lee, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves and brief intros since it's kind of the end of the day here, and then we'll get into some questions.
So my name is Dean Cameron. I am the CEO of Top Drawer Media. When you grabbed your welcome bag here, there's two of my magazines in there, Northwest Aerospace News and Let's Go Aerospace. We also do video production, social media marketing, try to be a full service marketing agency to kind of help in a number of different fronts.
Well, thank you for having me today. My name is Kelly Maloney, and I work for Altec, and Altec is a precision manufacturing contract manufacturer that does precision machining and custom injection molding based in Liberty Lake.
And I'm John Lee. I'm an advisor of Sales Acceleration. We have about 180 advisors around the country. We work with small businesses to help them build out their sales infrastructure, put the right people in the right seats, use the right tools, understand their process, their customers, and then aggressively grow.
Okay, so if you're looking for sales and marketing in good times and bad, you are in the right place. And we hope to give you some good information about both sales and marketing, both very deep topics, but we're all experts here, and I think we can give some good advice, and we'll take questions at the end. So, and then one other thing is we are filming our Northwest Aerospace News live in the Bay 2 after this. If you're interested in that show or want to be on that show in the future, let us know. Okay, with that, we'll go ahead and get into some questions here. So, let's see, this one is for Dean and John. So Dean, I'll take you first. What do you think are the primary differences between sales and marketing?
Well, so I use an analogy, and I have 28 years of sales background. And so when I started my sales career, it was, we don't have salesmen, go out there and make us a business. And it was like, I had a handful of seeds, what am I going to do with it? And so from a sales standpoint, you know, how do you get the attention of a client, especially when you're new to the industry? So marketing is the plow that plows the ground so that those seeds can germinate. And, you know, if you're just out there throwing seeds on the ground, you're going to get limited results. Marketing will introduce the sales, you know, introduce your company and give you brand awareness to a lot of clients. Now, a real quick example of what I did back then, I'm aging myself. Anybody remember those small little mini CDs? You know, CD-ROM, you had these little 3-inch ones that you could make. So I made 100 of those with video on what we did as a company, and I mailed them to engineers across the country. So once they had those little mini CDs and I go out and visit them, I find them tacked up in their booth. They already knew who we were and what we did when I go talk to them about a project. Well, CDs don't, most computers don't even have a CD drive anymore. So then we created thumb drives. And so that thumb drive, again, gives an explanation of what we were and everything as a company. Well, now any major company is not going to run a thumb drive that's sent to them because of cybersecurity. So nowadays, what you have, if I can open the box, is a little device here. Now, I didn't load anything on this, so it's not going to show anything, but what it is a video player. When you open that up, it'll actually play your video without you hitting a go button. So again, what it does is introduce your company to a potential client in a very thorough way. And I've probably taken too much time.
Well, thank you, Dean. John?
So I've been a VP of sales and marketing. I've been in sales and marketing for 40 plus years. It's changed. It used to be there were sales and there was marketing, but those lines have really grayed over the years. You know, it's really marketing's job to plow the ground, right? Brand, to let them know that we exist. In today's world, your customers know more about you than your salespeople know about you. They've already narrowed it down to 3 people that they're going to talk to. And so now sales job is really looking at the questions, confirming what they know about you, getting rid of those, you know, objections that they have that may not be correct about your company. But in today's world, those lines are really blurred because the customer journey now, they're much more qualified by the time they get to my sales teams.
I have a question for Kelly, because of what you did with LTech. So if a business has a sales department, how should they start a marketing department? And what's most important in getting started?
Yeah, great, thank you. Well, first of all, I think it's important to distinguish between sales and business development. So sales is what has been described here. They're out, they're technical, they're going out and getting the sale and closing the sale and that kind of thing. Business development to me can be both more strategic and also more about relationships. I mean, sales, you definitely need to build relationships, but it's a matter of degrees. And so I believe that at Altech, we have business development and sales, although it's basically called business development. And so I kind of think of it as BDS is what I call it. And so, or SBD, either way, whatever you want to do. But starting a sales, a marketing department or just the function at a company, it's really important to find obviously someone who's very seasoned, or who understands what your core competencies are. But far beyond that, they need to understand what your mission is, what your company culture is, what your capabilities are. But even bigger than all of that is what your customers are all about. And so if they don't really understand your customer segmentation or your market, then you are probably behind a little bit. Once you find someone who you think is capable and understands all of that, the next step is making sure your branding is on point, because as I think maybe both of these gentlemen mentioned, branding is pretty important, especially these days, and helping to position your company in a certain market, a certain way. The saying is that branding is your stakeholders' perception of what you are. And so you put out information about your company in a way that you hope realizes the perception that you're trying to create. And then just having someone who works as part of the team who's very collaborative is also a very important piece of it.
Great, thank you. John, when seeking new customers, what are the main questions a business owner should ask?
Could be here for several hours on this topic, but I'm going to challenge the owners and the people in sales and marketing in this room. When you're talking to a new potential client or an existing client, ask yourself one question. Are they a 20 or a 50? Historically, 80% of your revenue is going to come from 20% or less of your customers. 5 to 10% of your revenue is going to come from 50% or more of your customers. I had a client, 29 companies, accounted for 85% of their business. 5,000 companies accounted for 15% of their business. Where did the sales team spend their time? Answering the phone of the 5,000. Stop it. I'm serious. If they're not going to be potentially a 20, take their order if it's in your core business, but frankly, don't waste your time and your team's time doing it. So, are they a 20 or are they a 50?
Great, thank you. Dean, this is a question for you. What are some ways to get your message to business owners and decision makers in a target company?
So, again, going back in time, it was handing out brochures, right? But today, I'm going to say it's video and the use of video. Video is YouTube is the second largest search engine next to Google. So when you're looking for information, so many of you are going to YouTube. Clients are doing, research on suppliers through YouTube. And so, we publish magazines. So in our digital magazine, if you've got a corporate video, we attach that video to your ad. So it's not just a static ad. They click on that, they see the whole story, they see your video. We can then also submit and create video to support your website. It can be a link in an email at the end of your signature. So you want to be able to tell the whole story, and the best way to do that is in video.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd like to share a little bit at the end too about earned media, because that's another way to get the word out about your business. So Kelly, I have a question for you. Once a business has both the sales and marketing function, what are some tactics to get these diverse departments to work together?
Well, yeah, I think that's your question's right on target. It's really important, as I mentioned earlier, to encourage collaboration between sales and marketing. And there are a lot of ways you can do it, but having buy-in from on the marketing side, from the sales side, for the type of marketing that you want to do is really important, because a lot of times as a marketer, you're pushing information out, like maybe through press releases for earned media, that kind of stuff, or on, through the website on with videos and the content that's there, or even in social media. But there are a lot of times that your sales team is also pushing information out that you provide to them. And so being collaborative and helping, making sure you understand what their needs are, and just having team meetings and that type of thing. I think it's important as well to, as I mentioned, like understand the customer's needs. And what we've done at Altec is we've really looked at our marketing through the kind of end-to-end customer needs perspective. So if you look at where we start with maybe the part that might be in either a piece of medical equipment or on an airplane or on a satellite or something like that, we want to make sure we let the customer know that we understand their end product usage. So, communicate to them in some way that we know that, for instance, the seating on the airplane or even the lab on the airplane are, their customers' experiences there are very important. And so we let them know that we understand that, because if they know that we have their customer in mind, they're gonna know that they're gonna trust us more. But in terms of, just kind of your initial question, I do believe that another avenue for building teamwork is maybe introducing CRM, which is customer relationship management. And there are a lot of programs out there that you could use for that. But what that does is allow all teams to have eyes on where everything is at the moment. So the sales funnel, you might have a gated process or something like that, which is where it's a go, no go on a customer, kind of what, I'm sorry, what's your first name? John was alluding to. Is it 2050, which is a great way to put it. You might have a process that says, we don't want to spend our time on this particular customer. Let's focus more on this or these customers. So going through that process and then having it all documented essentially in a digital platform, which is the CRM that everyone can review. That's important for the marketing department to see, because they might be helping to provide introductions or a viewpoint that the sales team themselves don't have.
Great, thank you. John, I have another question for you. From a sales perspective, in the interest of revenue, many business owners take on any work that comes their way, which you alluded to a minute ago. How can a business learn to say yes to the right customers?
Before I jump on there, on the marketing side, if you don't have a CRM, seriously, it's 2023. Excel's not a CRM. You don't have to have Salesforce. You don't have to pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars per seat. Pipedrive's $19. There's some free ones out there. Please get a CRM. So you can't be AFM. You can't be anything for money. Right? When we start our companies, we're AFM. I get it, right? But the best way to say no to the wrong customer is to understand your ICP, your ideal client profile. If you're not selling to your ICPs, then you're probably going to take a lot of business you shouldn't be taking. When we think about what is an ideal client, talk to your team, talk to that client. Why are they buying from you? Why do we like selling to them? And you have to talk to all departments. Think about your accounting department. They may go, your operations may go, we love this product. We can build it. We get no scrap at all. Sales goes, they talk to us. We love them to death. And accounting goes, yeah, we make 15 calls. We get paid 180 days. That's part of your ideal client, right? So you need to look at that. And then you spend your proactive sales team going after your ICPs. You get marketing, because we're supposed to be working together and collaborating and feeding back through the CRM and other ways to market to our ICPs. But really, you need to really focus on what you're doing. When times go down, as we're going, or are in a recession, you really need to bring those 20s close to you, right? To bring a lot of money in. And you really need to find more of those 20s, more of those ICPs, right? So you can grow your business and scale your business. If you're selling to 5,000 people, $100 each, it's going to be a waste of your time. That answered your question.
Yeah, great, thank you. Well, Dean, what are some common marketing tactics and what are some overlooked marketing opportunities?
Well, I agree with a lot of what's being said here in that you really need to know your client and you need to know what problems they have. If you go in as a salesperson with the mindset, I've got to meet quota, you're not going to be successful. I mean, it's easily read all over your face. You're trying to get that sale. So you need to understand, people ask me, what's the secret to being a good salesman? Be their friend. I mean, find out what it is that they need. How can you solve a problem for them? And if you have the solution, you present the solution. Don't make up a solution because that'll backfire in a hurry. So from a sales tactic standpoint, I mean, again, be their friend, learn what it is that they need that you can provide, and then make sure that it fits your profile, your customer profile, that you're going to do good service. I've turned away more business and sent them to injection molders, even though we could produce the parts back in the day. I was a heavy gauge thermoformer. We could produce the parts. It was going to be more expensive, more labor and intrusive. There were going to be shortcomings. I didn't want to take that business on. We could have sold it and made a lot of money for a while, and then they would figure out that it was an injection molded product, and I sent them over to Mike. But it's all about building that trust. And so once you have earned that trust, you'll have more opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and just to add to that, some other marketing tactics that you might consider would be putting a blog on your website,
Mm-hmm.
doing some video, doing some earned media, which is pitching stories to the media about a new product launch or, hey, we're entering a new industry, and trying to get some earned media. So that's something that I work a lot on, is just talking to journalists, and again, building relationships
Mm-hmm.
with journalists so that they'll want to talk to us when we have news to share. And I know Kelly does that quite a bit as well. So there's a variety of marketing tactics you can use in addition to the sales tactics that we're talking about. Well, Kelly, let's see, how about a manufacturing success story, and what was their initial problem and how was it solved?
It can't be all tech.
It can't be.
I kind of wrote that for all time, but whatever.
Kelly does
Trying to stop
amazing.
me.
Kelly does amazing stuff, by the way.
Well, everybody in this room, I'm sure does. But I actually want to really quickly jump on the earned media thing, because I do have an interesting story, and then I will talk about your question. When I used to run the Aerospace Futures Alliance, and part of that was working with Boeing, very, very closely with Boeing. And there were some initiatives that they were interested in promoting, and as well for the industry overall. And so I was a part of a media roadshow, and what that meant was we went around and we met with editors and publishers of different broadcast and print media, and that was really successful. And it's not something that every company is going to need to do, but it's to underline your point, Jennifer, about getting to know the media and who your story might resonate with. It's really important to have those relationships built ahead of time. And so that's just, I think, an important aspect of that. But
you get employees too.
yes, absolutely. And that's actually one of the things I was going to talk about with Altec. I have two quick stories, two quick Altec stories. One is because of the pandemic, as most people in the room experienced, you had to let some possibly you had to let some of your staff go because things were just rough for just about everybody. And Altec was no different. And so when things came to get back on track and started producing more and more, there was a challenge with recruiting employees. And Altec did a number of things. One of them, we had a whole employee recruitment campaign that we put together that was incredibly comprehensive. And it included the biggest seller of all, which was staff getting friends and family to recommend and refer people they knew to Altec, and that was incredibly successful. But beyond that, our campaign included radio and TV ads. We even had an ad that ran after the Super Bowl the last couple of years, and that got a lot of attention. We did, we have a special place on our website. We have we had billboards. We did do media, a lot of kind of got some earned media from it. I can't remember everything we did, but we did a lot. And so just understanding the company's position and the culture of the company and what the goals were are very important to that type of thing. Specific to manufacturing, because this is a specific audience, and we did social media as well. So anyway, that's one quick story. The other one was talked about a bit this morning at the industry diversification piece. So because of the 737 MAX groundings and also because of the pandemic, Altec found they were pretty heavy. Their portfolio was pretty heavy in aerospace. I mean, they knew this already, but it really underscored that because of the 737s were grounded, and there weren't a lot of people flying, as you know. So they took a really good look at their industry portfolio, expanded from, I think, 3 or so industries into 5. And along the way, because of that, we rebranded the company and changed our tagline and our messaging and so forth. And that's where that end-to-end customer messaging came in. And we redid the website, we redid everything. And so that has really helped, relaunch Altec in a lot of ways. I mean, the company's been around and very successful for many years, but because of these situations outside of their control, they needed to do this, and I think that it's been very helpful. Oh, and by the way, this is the last thing I'll say, back on the employee recruitment piece, they are now 100% fully staffed. Yeah.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I mean, those are great stories, so don't apologize, because I think that we want to hear these stories. That's why we're all here today in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And what I hear from manufacturers often is, gosh, we have so much business. We're just booked up with business, but we don't have any employees.
Right.
And really, just like you're talking about, that is a campaign. That's a marketing campaign to get employees and bring them in. So don't overlook that, because that is just another tactic, and still builds awareness for your business if you are trying to diversify as well. So lots of different audience segments are in marketing, and those are things that we need to consider when we're looking at these campaigns.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
So one of the things that we found through Northwest Aerospace News Magazine was a lot of our advertisers were not just advertising for new business, they were advertising to share their corporate culture, things that they were doing that were, because we have 10,000 readers around the world, and people were shuffled around going here, there, and everywhere. And so it was really promoting that corporate culture, and which is one of the most important things I hear from people if they're going to change jobs or look for a job, is what is the culture? Pay is usually somewhere down around 3. All right, culture is important. Feeling like what you're doing, it means something, and money is important, but it's not the most important thing in most cases. So promoting and advertising your corporate culture is extremely important.
Absolutely. Well, I have a question for you, John. Can you tell us a brief success story in working with a manufacturer regarding sales?
And it can't be Altec.
All right.
So I retired twice. I was a business owner, and so I've been doing what I do now for about 9 years. And so I have story after story where it really makes impact. One that might be meaningful to you was a forging company. Forging to anyone, right? Get it hot, pound the heck out of it. That's about what I know about it. Their customers were in oil and gas, aerospace, defense, just big areas. So when I come into a company, I generally try and figure out what they do well and what they don't do well, and who's doing it well and who isn't, and So I was brought into a company that had gone from 30 to 20 million. They brought in a temporary CEO, a fractional sales leader. And I found that they were selling 102 products at between 0 and minus 245% profit. Now, this is a third generation company, you know, and to the two brothers that were at war, I said, we got to stop this. They go, but those are our best products. Went, yeah, no doubt. And I said, no, we really we can't do this. And they go, but, you know, this is to some of our biggest customers like Schlumberger. And I go, yeah, we need to talk to them. So we've got it, this is COVID time and right around the beginning of COVID. So we got on a video with Schlumberger, and I was very transparent, show them what our costs are, show them what our yields are, and go, I can't keep selling these. And they go, well, can we place one last order? I went, no. In the end, dramatically increased their profit, never lost any business. Out of those 102 products, they still make 100 of those products, right? And the company is back to where they need to be. But if you would have given it another 3 years at a minus 100 plus profit, that little company probably wouldn't be here. It's also the largest employer in their little city in Oregon. It's been around 50 years. That's the type of impact I think we need to make as, you know, advisors to companies.
Yeah, and John, to add to that, and this is something that, gosh, I struggled with this. I have struggled with it for years as a small business owner, is when to raise prices and how to know how to price yourself right to the right customers. And that's a challenge, I think, for everyone.
It shouldn't be a challenge. Anyone raise their hands if their labor rate went up in the last year? Energy costs went up in the last year, right? Your customers expect your prices to be raised. You need to raise your prices. Again, this forging company, they hadn't raised the prices for 10 years. No wonder they had no profit, right? So a number of years ago, I did a blog on LinkedIn. All the math is there. If you want to send it to me. If you have a 40% gross profit and you increase your price by 10%, you have to lose 50% of your customers to have the same amount of money in your pocket. How many people believe they're going to lose half their customers? None. The other side of that, by the way, the other blog I did was, if you discount your prices, how many more customers you need, right? Bottom line is, don't discount. Increase your prices. Don't wait 3 years where you have to put a 15% or 20% increase, or in some cases a 200. Do it routinely. They expect it. They really do. If you're working with Boeing and you don't raise your prices, they're probably going to ask you why. I mean, with their new culture.
Yeah. Partnering for success. I want to compliment you because in my career in selling mostly commercial aircraft interiors, virtually every quote I sent out was a spreadsheet with all of my costs, labor rates, the whole 9 yards, negotiating profit margins, and have the ability to go back and say, you know, raw material just went up 20%. You know, here's my purchase order. And it's a lot easier to negotiate that. And I would encourage, if you're in a market where you have the ability to do it, do it. You know, in my career, I sold a little over $200 million worth of aircraft components. And 90% at least were quoted with a full spreadsheet of costs.
Unless you're in a commodity where you got 100 people selling the same bloody thing and you can't differentiate yourself well enough, they don't care about price. They care about whatever they care about. Our job in sales is to figure out how to make it easy. Is it on-time delivery, quality? What is that, right? But it's seldom about price. Yeah, the purchasing people have to get their little pound of blood, a pound of flesh, but in the end, it's really not about price. And I have to teach salespeople that over and over and over again, because it's really easy to discount. But don't do it. If you set your comp plans based on profit or presumed profit versus revenue, it's amazing how salespeople Don't leave that money on the table. Salespeople, if you get nothing out of this, you get this. Salespeople only do two things. Only two things. What you pay them for and what you measure. So if your comp plan doesn't pay them the right way, or you're not measuring what they're doing, they're not gonna do it. Sorry.
No, it's all good stuff, like I said, and I know we're kind of jumping back and forth between sales and marketing. These are big topics. This is where we spend all of our time, that and public relations. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on here. So we try to condense it into this short little panel here. So a couple more questions, and we'll open it up to the audience for questions as well. So this is really about, the next question is kind of about marketing tactics as you segment your audiences. And one I'd like to talk to a little bit about, and Kelly, if you want to jump in, if you have anything to add there, is that segmentation. One tactic that I use with my customers is email marketing. Email marketing can be very effective if you do it right and you communicate consistently with your audiences. Now you can start to segment people because we can measure everything in email marketing, and with all of our marketing, in fact, we measure all aspects of it. In email marketing, I can find out who's reading my emails and what they're looking at, what they want to know about. With Dean, for example, we do newsletters, and we haven't gotten into segmentation yet, but we will soon. And one of the things we know is when we send out an advertising email, if people are clicking on I'm interested in more, or they're just clicking on a button, we know we can start to target them more fully. So that is just another tactic you can use. It's relatively inexpensive as you start to gather names at these events like this. Then you can start to communicate with folks that way. If you find out that people are simply not responsive, stop communicating with them. Don't bother them anymore, because there are many more people, like John said, that you can communicate with that want to hear from you. But you can start targeting messages specifically to them.
Yes, that's great. And I will add this, and this may not be relevant to everyone in the room, but Dean and I share a lot in common. And one of the things is when I was running the Aerospace Futures Alliance, we had a magazine that's focused on aerospace called Lift. And we were able to capture the information about who was reviewing it and how long they could, they'd stay on there and that and so forth. And it was really helpful. And Dean actually showed me his reporting information, the data that he gets, which is comparable to what I had. And it's just really powerful to know, who's looking at it and how long they're reading it and that type of stuff. And now that he's incorporated some of these other elements like the videos, I'm assuming, because we didn't have that at the time, I'm assuming that you're able to see who's watching the videos, how long they're on there. Similar to a website where you can, a lot of times you can figure out where your viewers came from, where they went to after they left your website, what pages they stayed on, how long they stayed on them. That type of stuff is all very good information to help you understand, where you might drive your next message, or, where sales might want to focus next, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
To jump on that real fast, we call that lead scoring, right?
Yeah.
Remember? So in the old days, we got the yellow pages, right? Started calling, right? Imagine you're now a salesperson. You know that John has just been on your website, read your email, just viewed for 5 minutes of the video. It was a long one. This is the third time he's been there this week, and he's been kind of on my target list, or the company has been, and he meets the persona for the person that makes the decision. I don't know. Maybe want to pick up a phone call.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it does get a little bit wacky because they don't all know that we're tracking every one of you. And we, know everything you're doing on LinkedIn too, and Facebook and Twitter. But, so you have to be a little careful about that. But in the end, they're further down the funnel, what we call the sales funnel, the buyer's journey. We know they're interested, right? It's not like I'm calling someone, knocking on the door and going, can I sell you something? We know they're interested, we know what pages they've been on, and now we can ask them the questions, right? To see, are they truly interested? Are they ready to make the decision? What do they need to do? But if they're that active, their lead score goes way up, depending which system you're using, and all of a sudden, marketing goes to sales, bing, do this one, and it works.
Well, and everybody's probably got a really nice website. You track your traffic. That's extremely important, because If you're not using, I use a system called Matomo, but other people use Google's system, analytics and whatnot, but you gotta track who's seeing you. You can have the most beautiful website in the world, and if 10 people a month are looking at it, you're not getting anywhere. So you wanna find ways to attract people to your website, make sure that the information of who you are and what it is that you do is very clear. Don't put too much stuff on there because their eyes will gloss over and they'll leave right away. But Northwest Aerospace News, we get 600 plus unique visitors a month, and they spend an average of 13 minutes on the site. The reason why is our magazine reader, which shows the magazine, we break out every article about all the different manufacturers into a blog post underneath the magazine. So now these companies go, ooh, that's me. And they click on that, they get the URL, and they start sharing that on social media, which is then traffic to my website. We also have, I'm gonna share some of my secret sauce here. When you subscribe to Northwest Aerospace News, it's free. And there's a form that you fill out, and this is called a lead funnel. So one of the last questions on there is, are you interested in learning more about advertising in Northwest Aerospace News? If the answer is yes, I get that form, and I already know that I'm gonna have a conversation with you about advertising in the magazine. If you say no, I'm not gonna try and push the rope uphill. Congratulations, you're gonna get the magazine in the mail. After you get it 6 or 7 times, you might say, wow, this is pretty cool, maybe I wanna advertise. So find a way to segregate, find a way to find your client. For us, it's this lead funnel from a subscription standpoint. Please subscribe to the magazine.
I'm going to add just one other thing. So we've talked a lot about websites, and and Dean says, yes, you should have a website, a good one if you don't already. And make sure that the information, the minute they hit your homepage, make sure they really understand what you do. And people are so visual. I am a big fan of having something that is moving on the, a video or whatever on the screen right away, because that is really something that attracts them. But far beyond that, and kind of again what Dean alluded to, is having content that really matters on your website. So when you've got what's called web crawlers, they're looking for websites that have a lot of content. In the olden days, content was bad for websites. We're talking, a decade or two ago. Now content is king. You want to have as much, it has to be relevant content as possible, and then it's going to just bump you up more in the search engine's results. So that's one key thing. And also meta tags. So if your website designer knows where to put it's kind of a back behind the scenes type of thing where people are, they're putting in kind of keywords and basically keywords, so that again, the web crawlers can find you easier. That's pretty important for finding you online. And I would say one other thing, if you're using social media, or even if you're not, but if you are, use the blog options as well. If you have content, even if it's old and it's been published before or something, if you own that and it could be freshened up, or you want to use it just to to a new audience, you can use, as an example, LinkedIn, which I think is the best professional network out there. They have options for you to put articles on LinkedIn, and then you can post those and get a lot of traffic that way.
And also tag each other, tag people you do business with, tag your business partners. Last week, Kelly and I were tagging each other right and left, along with people that were organizing the conference, so that we could build interest for the conference and just start to spread the word about this great conference that we have going on here. Well, this time I'm going to go ahead and open it up for questions. We just have a few more minutes, and that is because we're filming Northwest Aerospace News live down in Bay 2. We've got people already signed up to be on the show, but if you really want to be on the show for 1 minute to tell us one good thing about your business, and stick around, and you can also participate with that. So we'll go ahead and take a couple questions here right now. Anyone? Yes.
Yeah, I have a question. After I got Elegant Materials Technology, my question was for John. I was just trying to get clarification when you're talking about 2050. Wasn't really catching that the number didn't add up to me, so
80% of your revenue historically comes from 20% of your customers. And 5 to 10% of your revenue comes from 50% of your customers. Where do you want to spend your time?
Forgive me for coming in late. You might have covered it, but I wanted to ask you, Kelly, about when you were approached to do the rebranding. Like, how was that buy-in process work for you? I mean, it sounds like they were pretty invested.
Yes.
I do branding, and so sometimes it's a struggle to get buy-in because they don't really understand what branding can do for them and how important it is even for like things like attracting employees. Your brand speaks to many different audiences. How was that process with them?
Yeah, you're right. It's going to be different depending on who you're working with. Some people understand it and respect it, I would say, and some don't. And so I will give you two examples. One is with Altec, which was a wonderful experience. The entire senior management team was completely on board with wanting to rebrand. I would say, though, it was not an easy task.
Yeah.
I mean, they were so invested, and Mike's right there, so he can attest to this. They were so invested that I don't even know how many different logos and taglines we went through, but it was well worth it. I mean, it was a challenge for me because I had voices coming from everywhere. But it is so valuable. That whole process is so valuable, and it really gets you at the end to where you want to be. Now, a long time ago, I was in marketing for a college, and before I got there, they went through a rebranding process, but they didn't bring anyone from the college into the process. And so I was hired to get everybody on board because everyone, like from professors to administration, everyone was resisting.
I worked in pub services. I did that. So.
Okay. So what I did was I created a campaign where I got a lot of people involved, and it was a really differentiated campaign that went anywhere from just kind of media type of stuff. We did a commercial, and I got people involved in the commercial. We just did a bunch of stuff, and all of it ended up to over time really get people to really buy into what the new brand was, because people don't understand that a brand isn't just a logo. It's the perception, as I mentioned earlier, of the company or the college or whatever it happens to be. And so just taking your time and getting people to understand. Now, I know your challenge is probably different because you're from outside, I guess, an organization. Is that correct? Or
I'm with the small machine shop. We
just
started it, but my background is that. So I only have one person to run.
Okay. Yeah, I guess, what I would do probably is start with showing examples of successful rebranding of manufacturing companies, and how, if you can get your hands on something, and use Altec as an example, how something that, was already successful could become more successful with this tie-in.
Thank you.
Can I ask the group a question, Jen?
Yeah, you have 1 minute.
I have 1 minute. That's tough. All right. I don't think I've ever done anything in a minute.
I know.
How many people, raise your hand if you have a LinkedIn account? Almost everybody in the room. All right. Raise your hand if you have a premium account. Very few. You need to invest in a premium account. It gives you the demographics of who's looking at you and, their title and, all of that information. But LinkedIn takes effort. I personally, amongst all of our brands, we have a little over 10,000 followers on LinkedIn. All right, 6,600 of them are on my personal page. And the reason for that is because when you post something and you get a lot of people that are liking and making comments on your post, with a premium account, you click on that and you know exactly who they are, who they work for, and how many shared connections you have. And if they're a level 2, you click on that and ask to connect. And if they say, well, gosh, you know Kelly and you know John, sure, I'll connect with you. That's where you start building an audience on LinkedIn. And trust me, when you have 6,600 followers and you post something with significance, it resonates with an audience. So if I can, one social media, LinkedIn's the best. Buy a premium account and start using it. Develop your clients.
I want to say one quick thing about that. I know you're in a hurry. So I agree with that to a degree. Maybe it's because being a woman, maybe I'm a little more cautious, but I am a little more selective in who I choose to connect with, and I really look at them very carefully. I try to make sure, and I've got a different reason for being on LinkedIn than Dean does, so everything is relative. But I'm a little more careful and selective. So just keep your audience in mind, and also just through that lens,
I don't disagree, and the
Yeah.
people that I asked to connect with are very industry specific.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so, I'm not connecting with, listen, LinkedIn's starting to get like, we'll be fine, Jennifer. LinkedIn's starting to get a little Facebooky, where you're starting to get some people that, don't have any connections, or 1 or 0, or they've been on a month. Don't connect with them just to add your number. Yeah, just don't connect with them. Find somebody that's in the industry who's a CFO for an aerospace company
Right.
that you want to meet,
Yeah.
and be selective. But the more you work that audience, the more connections you have, the more your people that'll start liking your post, and then you go down that list and go, oh, that person's a supply manager for Boeing. Click.
Yeah, but to
Yeah,
be,
agree.
be frank, they're gonna look at your LinkedIn page before they look at your website.
Yep.
They
Yes.
just believe that more. They believe it to be true. That isn't necessarily, but they're going to. And it's about staying top of mind. We only make a sell when there's a need and the timing is right. So staying top of mind to them by posting early and often is important. But I hire a lot of salespeople. I fire a few, but I hire a lot. I get more information about them from their LinkedIn than anything else. If you're in business development or sales and you don't have a profile on LinkedIn, that's gonna be an issue in our first interview. Just saying. Yeah, if you're a CEO of a company, yeah, I get it. Yeah, you have LinkedIn because she told you to.
So waiting for one of those AI bots that'll like reply to everything.
Yeah.
It's called Applied Social.
Oh,
Social.
Yes.
Okay. Applied.
It's
It's
something
there.
like that.
It's there.
I don't use it, but yes, it is.
It's there.
It is there. It does exist.
Yeah, I'm not so good at flying. Lot of
Right. Well, you have 21,000 followers.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he has a lot of followers.
never select for title president.
Well, I want to thank you all for coming today. We did record this session because we're in marketing, and that is what we do. So you can go to Top Door Media on YouTube and look us up under Northwest Aerospace News Live. That is where you'll find our show as well. And I'm, again, Jennifer Ferrero. My business is Ferrero Agency, a content marketing agency. Dean Cameron, Top Door Media, Kelly Maloney with LTech, and John with Sales Acceleration. So if you want to look us up, you can find us in the
On LinkedIn.
event guide and LinkedIn. And we'd love to talk to any of you further. Thank you.
Thank you.